My favorite part about the HelloFresh experience is having 40 different chef-crafted recipes to select from every week. I'm always learning how to prepare something new, and I never really feel like I'm making the same meal twice. Soon enough, we'll all be spending money, buying gifts, and planning travel. And as life gets busy, don't call for delivery, get HelloFresh. It's 25% cheaper than takeout and less expensive than grocery shopping. So you can save money and spend more on presents for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50brothers and use code 50brothers for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50brothers and use code 50brothers for 50% off plus free shipping. And learn why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit.
Now from Hollywood, California, the horror capital of the world, the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night.
Hello, uglies. Here we are, your grisly and gorgeous guides, ready to escort you through the wicked world of the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night. Drac, my darling, talk to me.
What do you want me to say?
I want you to say, how much fun did you have at Days of the Dead this past weekend?
I had a good time at Days of the Dead. Yeah, we did Days of the Dead horror convention in Los Angeles, and it was a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of interesting vendors, which I always love. I always love to walk around and see all the good wares, and I especially like to do it before they open so that if there's anything good to get, I can get it before you all get there.
And you can get it also for me, because that's exactly what happened this weekend. You bought me that new jack-o'-lantern, which I absolutely loved before anyone else got to see it. There were only 2, and I snatched it up.
Vintage jack-o'-lantern.
Thank you.
What did you think of Days of the Dead?
It was fun. I think, we've done horror conventions before. This one was kind of special because of the companions that we were there with. Because Dali joined us. I almost called him Durla. I'm like, people won't necessarily know Durla by that name, but Dali, aka Durla, was there as our guest kind of like through the weekend, who helped us, man the booth and sort of guide the fans of Days of the Dead and the fans of the Boulet Brothers Dragula into the convention. We were right out in front. It's so ostentatious too. It's just like, oh my God, drag queens have to run this booth because it's so big and it's so glamorous. And I'm like, you're so fucking right, because that's exactly how it should be,
Horror conventions are not all alike, right? You have like small ones that are like folding tables in a hotel hall, and then you have giant things like Midsummer Scream and everything in between, and you never know what you're getting into when you arrive.
No, you truly,
but no
truly
matter
don't.
what, if you're hiring drag artists to be there, you can bet that it's going to be a big draggy booth.
It's going to be fabulous. But the other guest that I was kind of talking about, Terrifier, had a huge presence there because the director and creator, Damien Leone, was on hand, and we got to meet him. And of course, we took photos, and he's kind of cute, right? I was like,
he's very cute, actually.
Hot. Like a total snack.
He is, definitely. Yeah, so we got to meet him and the actor that plays Art the Clown, David Howard Thornton. And they were both very nice, actually. Yeah. I was excited to meet them because we've been talking back and forth on social media for a while, but I've not met them in person yet. And I've been rooting for them.
100%.
I have been rooting for them. Like, I'm not one of those people that likes to share, like, let me share these movies or go see, I'm not into that. But with them, when Terrifier 2 came out, I just wanted them to win. I wanted them to win. Like, I saw their presence growing and their success growing. Because remember, at first they're like, oh my God, it's only going to be in the theaters for like 48 hours or something. And we're like, well, we better go see it, which we did. And then they're like, oh my God, it's getting extended. And then it's expanding. And extended.
I was like, wow.
I was like, good for you.
You know why? Because they're kindred spirits,
yes.
Right? They had a cool idea that wasn't supported by some big network system. And they said, we're going to make this happen. They literally manifested it. And it was so fun to watch from the sidelines.
Yeah.
Then when we got to meet them, it was like, oh, we were talking the same kind of language. Like, I think we saw in them a little bit of the same thing of what they see in us, and it is that kindred spirit.
I think so too. It's weird. Like, I feel similarly, and he's in a completely different world now, but Mike Flanagan, who's a friend of ours now, who started out very similar to how we did, very grassrootsy, and obviously his career's exploded. Whole different lane now that he's in, but it's always interesting to meet creators like that who kind of started in a similar place to where you do, because I feel like it reminds you that you're on the right track. Because a lot of times you're like, I made this up. where did I get this from? Am I doing this right? You know what I mean?
I know that. I've had that monkey on my back many times.
Yeah, and so it's nice to, no, this is what you do. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
There's no school that's like, hey, here's how you make a TV empire. Here's how you do this. Here's how you have to, fall.
You have to forge your way through.
and-
You have to fall and flip and flop and flounce and just keep the fuck going.
Yeah. As long as you publicly don't flop, I guess. As long as you flop behind the scenes, I guess it's okay, right?
Well, listen, I have to take a break while I sip my coffee. Just give me 1 second.
Wow.
Because pumpkin spiced lattes are now officially available. And you know what that means?
What?
Ready or not, like it or not, it is officially spooky season.
I hate the word spooky.
It's
Did you know
okay.
that?
It's okay.
Do you hate it?
I don't hate it. I don't use it often, but I think in this context, like spooky season is kind of like a thing.
I hate the word spooky, but it is officially fall. Fall season. It's not really fall, but it is. You're seeing everything in the stores now.
Yeah.
Pumpkin spice lattes are out.
Yeah, all the
coffee
Halloween
houses
decorations.
have their pumpkin spice stuff. All the decorations, and
The
we're
Home
starting
Depots
to see,
are like a pit of like treasure now.
absolutely. They
Yeah.
have that Boulet Brothers Dragula season 5 cast reveal set up.
Yes,
there.
they did.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good. And people were like, I'm calling the police on that post because they were like, I thought this was real. I clicked out of my science college class thesis Zoom to
I know,
read the
'cause
cast
they just
reveal
saw
and
the-
it was fake.
They
Yeah.
saw the hashtag season 5 and they were like, it's real. And I was like, it's not.
Too
I mean,
fun.
it could be. It's,
Too fun.
Yeah, so Halloween stuff is coming out. We're starting to see teasers for all the Halloween attractions that are in town. And that's one thing people probably, if you don't live in LA, you don't realize this. LA is the Halloween capital of the world. I don't know why. It is hot. It is bright. It does not feel like the fall here at all. But wow, do they celebrate Halloween here?
They really do. And I'm actually curious because I know that we are spoiled. We have so much to do and we do everything. Our Halloween itinerary is so packed for like 2 months every year.
Yeah.
But I wonder what it's like in other parts of the country. Because we have had the luxury of being in various places through October. Like we know Detroit does like a lot of cool, interesting, very weird, kind of specific stuff to Detroit. And of course the Northeast and like New England and everything, that's like really rich with like the fall colors and apple cider and pumpkin picking and all that. But I wonder what it's like in other pockets of the country.
I would say from DC all the way north, it's no nonsense. They're not messing around with you in your goofy costume. They don't they're not into it, you know?
Wait, what do you mean?
They're not about the Halloween celebrations. They're not about like having the amusement parks for months. It's just not that kind of big deal out there. I feel like it's just very no nonsense. Like think about when you're in New York. Yeah, New York celebrates Halloween on Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
But if you try it before that, they're like, no.
I don't know. I feel even more grateful that so many of the dark-hearted people live in Southern California and they love to celebrate it too. Because if you think about all of these horror conventions and all of the stuff that there is to do around this season, and we've said it before, like the Haunted Hayride, Not Scary Farms, Universal Horror Nights, like every amusement park, and there are a million here, has like a transformation that it undergoes through the Halloween season.
I think it would be so fun to do a Junior Mints field trip to Not Scary Farms.
Our first field trip?
Yeah.
Oh, I do love it.
I don't know if we could put it together or not, but I think it would be a lot of fun.
That's
to do.
hilarious.
So anyways, yeah, there's tons of stuff to do here around Halloween season. It's starting now. I think if you don't live in the Los Angeles or Southern California area, you should definitely make a trip here in October if you want to see the most Halloween shit that you will ever see.
Absolutely. And before we take a break, I want to share something that I read this past week. And you know me, I very rarely read. That's why we haven't had a book nook in quite a while.
You used to read a lot before we
No,
got extremely
I did.
busy.
We've just gotten so busy, yeah, with all of these
Remember when
filming
you would
projects.
stay up all night reading those books, and I'd be like, "Would you go to sleep,
I miss it.
please?"
You know, I get obsessed. Like,
You would be like on like 4 a.m, like, and then the snake came. I'm like, could you calm down? It's 4 a.m,
Oh,
and you would
missed
get
that.
into
Oh,
it.
totally. But I was reading this news article and I thought, what a slice of true real life horror. So imagine this. You're a 65-year-old woman in Canberra, Australia. You live on a lake. You're retired. You're old. You are suffering from headaches weird stomach aches. You're going to the doctor. They don't know what it is. And depression, like this array of very strange.
Relatable.
Yeah.
Relatable right about now.
Just really strange symptoms that don't add up and don't, make sense. So she goes to the hospital, gets an MRI, and they scan her brain.
Yeah.
And she has abnormal lesions on her brain.
Okay.
So they have to do a surgery. How scary, right? So you're going under for brain surgery. And while they're in there, the surgeon is in the area with the lesions and pulls out a live, living, wiggling worm from her brain.
What kind of worm?
They gave the scientific name like Ophrelius azapactus or whatever.
Ophicephus worm.
The Ophicephus brain worm.
What does an Ophicephus brain worm do?
It's the first time that they've recognized that a living parasite in a brain like that. I mean, I just found that so crazy.
How did it get in her? I don't understand. This is very weird.
Okay, so they talked about it in the article. She lived on a lake.
Okay.
And Australia is crazy. Like they have every deadly creature imaginable, and their bugs are the size of dinosaurs. But she lived on a lake, and the area was heavily populated by some kind of python. And this worm is a parasite of pythons. So she would harvest this grass that grew around the lake, some kind of edible grass, and cooked with it.
Okay.
And they assume that through fecal droppings and dropping from the python, she cooked it, ingested it. It was alive, went to her brain, and grew into the size of a 6-inch worm that was living in her brain.
Well, is she all right now?
I don't really know. And I tried to follow up. Once I got to python excrement, I was I'm out. I can't really.
That's so crazy. I mean, she's lucky it didn't kill her. I wonder if it didn't. I mean, that's ooh.
Yeah, but thinking
I wonder if we could do that to someone. Because that's one of those things that you would never.
Wait, what the fuck do you mean?
They would never. That's one of those things that when you watch Snapped and stuff, and they try to figure out ways to kill people that you can never discover it. Could you put a worm in someone and it
Python opacevus
no
brain
whatever
worm?
How would they can't blame it on you. I fed him a salad, so
that's
what?
wild. Let's chew on that while we take a quick break, and when we come back we'll be moving on with this episode of Creatures of the Night. Well, Uglies, we are just about to officially enter the haunted holiday season. Fall is right around the corner, and if you are wondering what to conjure up in your cauldron for dinner, allow HelloFresh to help you plan for the busy season ahead, with tasty dishes delivered right to your door. Simply choose your recipes and pick your delivery dates, then lay back and enjoy the last days of summer knowing dinner is covered. My favorite part about the HelloFresh experience is having 40 different chef-crafted recipes to select from every week. I'm always learning how to prepare something new, and I never really feel like I'm making the same meal twice. Soon enough, we'll all be spending money, buying gifts, and planning travel. And as life gets busy, don't call for delivery, get HelloFresh. It's 25% cheaper than takeout and less expensive than grocery shopping, so you can save money and spend more on presents for yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/50brothers and use code 50brothers for 50% off plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50brothers and use code 50brothers for 50% off plus free shipping. And learn why HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit.
All right, welcome back to the podcast, everyone. And Swan, thank you for your fabulously feculent story.
I'm still trying to figure out what you meant by hey, could we do that to somebody else?
Because, you see all these murder mystery shows and true crimes, and they're always I figured out how to poison this person. I'm I wonder if, whatever.
It reminds me of Snapped marathons. And you know what?
Exactly.
I miss a good Snap marathon.
Me too.
I mean, this is the American storytelling that I definitely long for. When I learned that office manager melted her coworker and poured him down the drain, that's amazing TV.
See, you watch too much stuff like that, you start forgetting, how can I kill someone with a salad worm, and can I get away with it?
Yeah.
Speaking of women who have been pushed too far, Ian, welcome to the podcast.
It turns out it's not the Ozempic making me skinny, it's a tapeworm. Yay!
Here's my question. How would a worm, you ingest it, but what made it go from your stomach to your brain?
I don't even spend time thinking about it.
Okay, but I do.
Me too.
I don't know. I'm not a brain wormologist, but in my brain wormology classes, I think that there are like bacterias that like in the water or whatever, like if you just get them up your nose, it gets all connected. Like, you know, the brain worm connected to the bone worm or whatever, like, you know. So if it was in your gut, then maybe it could travel back up to your nose or
but
like.
Why?
Okay, but wait, because now I am thinking about it too. I assume like, oh, when I think of the story, maybe just one little piece of. What if it was like riddled with fecal matter? So when she put it in her mouth, there's like a lot of it. And it could literally
Australian scat queen.
Your mucous membranes are all connected. Like the back of your throat goes up into your nose, which is very close to your brain. You invited me there, and now we're there, so don't cry about it.
Wait, is it true? Have you ever heard about like a tapeworm, right? And that they would starve a person and then hold food over their mouth and it would make it come out?
Oh my God, that's so hardcore. I
wonder
love
if that's
it.
real.
The way I was told when I was a child, which scarred me forever, which was they starved you down when you had a tapeworm, and they sat a bowl of milk at the table, and you just kind of sat over it, and the worm would smell it and crawl up your throat till you started feeling it. Oh my God, I'm gonna gag.
Oh my God, yes.
Does a tapeworm live in your stomach?
I don't know.
Yes, I think it like lives in your stomach, but also I think it grows through your intestines. Like, I don't know. I know. Like, I don't know how long she go, but I feel like at a certain point, I mean, she can come out both ends.
Wow.
I can think of two people in our recent past that maybe we need to get them scanned after this conversation. You know exactly
actually,
what I'm talking about.
I have another person. I had heard from a friend who went to a party recently that there are a couple of people who may be having tapeworms.
Are you sure
it's
it's tapeworm?
I mean, tapeworm, Ozempic, other sorts of weight loss options.
Damn.
Wow.
I want a tapeworm. Okay, no, seriously though, like I just think that like a tapeworm would be like a fierce way to like A, lose a little weight, and B, like you're never alone with a tapeworm.
Are you? The kind of party I think you're talking about is like an intestinal parasite, not a tapeworm, right?
Well,
I don't know.
Hold on. Is there a difference?
I think there's a difference.
Wait, is there one that's like fiercer and more
from
fun?
Food, and one you get from something else.
Oh. Well, I mean, the something else could be food. Feculent scat queens unite.
I'm reading it right here, fellow feculent scat queens. A tapeworm is a parasite that can live and feed in the human intestines.
That's so nice.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you learned it here.
Okay.
You learned it here first.
Not only entertaining, also educational.
Yeah.
You could actually change, because I looked and, you know, I was listening to my favorite podcast recently, the Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night. And I saw that it's listed as arts and entertainment, which I think is pretty accurate. But I think that this episode could also qualify for education.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You reminded me of the keywords that they put up on like the Prime Video stuff, like when we're watching The Housewives. And I look at it and it's like family, drama, sassy.
Weird. Weird was another
weird.
time.
No, weird is another one. So I'm like, for
100%.
Dragula, it's like family, drama, sassy, weird. Like they all apply. It's
totally
perfect.
Okay. I once had a parasite though.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't a tapeworm. It was.
I bet it wasn't. For the same party?
No, and I wish it was. It was disappointing. Like, it was from traveling. And yeah, I lost a ton of weight. It was not fun, not sexy. Yeah, and I got tested for it, and they were like, ooh, mama, your gut.
It's a great way to lose weight.
It is.
It's a great way to lose weight. I've always said they should bottle it and sell it. Well, they don't need to now. People can take Ozempic. But before that,
I actually think that there were instances of people bottling and selling parasites.
Oh yeah, that sounds like one of those snake oil hair tonic like Ponzi schemes that they had. Like everybody in their wagon was like going across America selling that stuff, and people were buying it.
Hey everybody, it's me, Pioneer Patricia here, with your latest weight loss supplement.
Who wants a worm? Guaranteed to make you lose 30 pounds by the end of the month.
By the end of the Oregon Trail, or your money back.
Or you'll die. But what difference does it make? You can't sue me then.
Good luck, ugly.
All right. Do you have any news? Is this a newsworthy kind of week?
You know, I don't know if it's newsworthy, but I do have the news regardless. The crystal ball has just been shined and the tarot cards have all been placed. The spirit world is calling to me, and as their conduit to the land of the living, it is my distinct corporeal pleasure to bring our loyal listeners the freshest and most frightening news items this side of the spectral divide. Starting with terrors in our listeners' homes and personal poltergeist sensing devices, a brand new Netflix documentary has just been announced titled The Devil on Trial, which seeks to explore the infamous court case that inspired the story of The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, which we've also covered on this very podcast during our Hauntings of History segments of yesteryear.
Interesting. I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if people remember, but this is actually the first time that demonic possession has been legally used as a court defense.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is
I assume it didn't
wild.
work.
It actually did work, is the thing. Although,
Really?
watch, that's a total misquote. I actually don't remember, even though it was my haunting of history.
I actually don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what happened.
Yes, I did murder them from a salad worm. However, I was possessed.
The devil.
Thank you.
The devil literally made me do it.
I rest my case.
Oh my God.
I think it'll work.
Moving things to the silver screen by way of films also covered on this podcast, Junior Mints Movie Club members who missed their opportunity to see Terrifier 2 in theaters can rejoice, as Damien Leone plans to bring Art the Clown back to theaters starting November 8th to close out this year's, Drax's favorite word, spooky season with a scalping, flesh-rending, blood vessel bursting bang.
Listen, you can't escape the usage. You might as well get into it.
don't
Everybody
like
says
it.
it. It's stamped across the world
Yeah.
every year. It is spooky season.
If you wouldn't have spooky season, like what is like another like alliterative or consonantive spooky
know.
season?
The haunted
There's
holiday
no-
season.
There's the
that's
haunted
kinda
holiday season.
cute.
There's nothing
holidays,
that's
yeah.
as sort of like goofy, boofy, like home goods, like
spooky.
Not
You
boofy.
know what I mean? It's kind of like doofy,
But part of
like
that is-
boo
but
with an
part-
exclamation point and like a googly-eyed ghost. It's like I don't know. It's very that, you know.
Yeah, I think that. I mean,
Listen, I've heard your Spotify playlists. I know you like some of that stuff.
Not
'Cause
that.
that goes,
That's-
that goes right with
That
Halloween.
is vintage. No, there's two things. There's like vintage cool Halloween.
Too many rules. No one could follow
rules,
these.
Martha.
There's vintage and cool Halloween, and I have an army of people on TikTok that agree with me. By the way, and then there is
Militant
like
Martha here to let us know.
then there's like goofy, doofy Halloween. Like
Not even
it's like
doofy, goofy, boofy. Like
Yeah,
is that-
like it's like a
New
spider
goofy.
with curly legs and googly eyes. It's so.
cute.
Oh,
no, it's not
actually
cute.
no, because there's like some stuff that you'll see like when we go shopping for Halloween stuff, and it's like, what is the inspiration here?
Yeah.
Because it's like a green ghost with like pink spiked hair. It's on a witch broom. It's got like bolts on its neck.
Exactly.
It's everything.
Someone in one of my TikTok army, they read, honey.
They read no crumbs.
They did. They put up. They were like, "What is this?" And it's like a witch. The broom is like a skeleton, and it's like skeleton mom. And they're like, "What does this mean?" And I'm like, "Exactly." They're just like, "I don't know about Halloween. Let me just mix all this up." And there you go.
This is my like
Spooky and boofy.
spooky, boofy, new boot goofing, creepy and kooky. I want to be skeleton mom. My
Hey.
Ozempic tapeworm
Yes.
skeleton mom
There's
fantasy.
a through line here.
And finally, for any Creatures of the Night fans
How
who
she say finally? That's 2 items. And finally.
okay, I'm sorry. I hate to break this one to you, Dragmorta, but there's usually 2 to 3 news items.
She said, and tonight this happened. And finally.
Welcome to tonight's spooky podcast.
What is it?
He's like, let us begin the story. And in closing,
Well, listen, spooky divas, since we've already established that apparently the news has to have 3 items at a minimum, and also that New York does not count for spooky season, here are 2 ways that New York City Creatures of the Night listeners can celebrate the Halloween season. Oh, sorry, spooky season. 2 newly announced attractions in the Big Apple have my pumpkin spice pussy quivering with
You could.
I couldn't. I'm so sorry. Two newly announced attractions in the Big Apple have my pumpkin spiced pussy quivering with the reveal of Saw the Musical, the unauthorized parody.
Wow.
Okay, I live for it more than it says unauthorized.
Oh, I know. I just want it to be the authorized parody. But there's also a brand new Size Queens Rejoice 20,000 square foot horror attraction titled Terror Vision Live Screaming Your Nightmares, with over 140 scare actors in 3 interconnected narratives for horror fanatics to get their fear going, starting September 14th.
I
Let's
love
go.
that.
Let's
Oh my God, we
go.
have to. I mean, talk about like Junior Min's field
Girl.
trips. Not a movie, but we should go.
Okay.
I want to go so bad.
2 things. 1, yes, we have to go. 2, if they don't cast formaldehyde in the unofficial Saw play,
I know.
they're messing up.
I could see it.
Okay, wait, but how how gaggy would it be if we went to opening night and we just saw Formelda on stage
In her pinwheel costume.
full pinwheel? I would have added more needles fantasy. Also, I gotta give it to Formelda. I just live for them because I just saw them on Instagram the other day and like face beat with a mask and like looking snatched, but there was like a weird disconnect between the top of the mask and then the wig, and I was like, Formelda, just connect the wig and the mask.
She's like, I ain't got time for that, Ian. I'm at the horror convention.
She's like, don't come for my mask edges like that.
She's like, Mama, I'm a terror trader. I am doing stuff, honey.
I feel like Formelda's like at all these horror conventions now. I love it.
Formelda is a busy.
Yeah, I love that. It's fun.
She's a working girl.
Yes.
All right, Junior Mints, it's time to grab a drink, refill your official tumblers, and fill up your fanny snack packs for this episode's Junior Mints Movie Club movie review. We decided to wind the clocks back to 1974 for Mel Brooks's black and white horror comedy opus, Young Frankenstein.
The Opus Cephas.
This is Mel Brooks at the height of his powers, directing a truly star-studded cast featuring Gene Wilder, Peter Boyle, Madeline Kahn, Terry Garr, Cloris Leachman, Marty Feldman, and a very young Gene Hackman. Okay, confession, I never saw this until we just watched it for the review. This was one that slipped through the cracks for me, and I had never seen Young Frankenstein.
Well, here is my confession. I wanted to really like Young Frankenstein, and when I watched it when I was much younger, I could not get into it. The humor, it just did not click for me. It went over my head, and they were yelling. I was like, what are they yelling about? It was just annoying. It's one of those movies I feel like you could appreciate more as an adult.
That
You
tracks
think so?
100%.
Yes, Swan, 100%. I watched this movie and was gagged. I was like, oh my God, this is so funny, but I don't think that I could have appreciated it at any point up until now.
It's like one of the top 100 funniest movies of all time in all these different lists, and it's supposed to be like, it's very celebrated.
It's beloved. People
Yeah.
universally love this movie.
It's like this and Haunted Honeymoon and a lot of Gene Wilder. There's like comedy horror movies. Like I wanted to love them because visually I love black and white movies and I love that whole, universal aesthetic. And so I would try to watch them and I'm like, I can't stand this person.
Who, Gene Wilder? I love him.
Yeah. And I confessed this before and I will say it again. I have never seen Willy Wonka in my life.
Oh my God,
Yeah, and
Diva.
So my introduction to him was movies like this, and I was like, I can't
Wow.
stand this guy. Like, and it was something about I just couldn't get into his humor at that age,
He's one of those actors that has such a distinct style. Like as he's acting, you're like, look at him go. Look, he's totally doing his thing. He's doing like Gene Wilder doing Gene Wilder.
It's like the overacting,
100%.
like yelling. They're always yelling. I'm like, why is this funny? But now I get it.
Yeah, well, there is a ton of yelling, but I feel like the humor is bone dry. Like
Oh,
there
yeah.
are so many
Yeah.
instances where like they'll tee the joke up and then you're like, oh wait, did I miss the punchline? But then you think about it, you're like, oh, never
Yeah.
mind, I got it.
It's almost like this insidious humor.
Yeah,
and
it's
there's no
fabulous.
laugh track. There's no signaling to the
Yeah,
audience like what you should
exactly.
feel. Like you just watch it and then it slowly kind of like trains you to the pace
Yeah.
of it, because the pace is something else to get used to, because the pace of movies today, it's like ADHD compared to this. This is
Yeah.
slow, much slower.
I'm gonna jump ahead. I don't want to, but I have to because it's like the biggest impact for me. Like Marty Feldman as Igor.
so good.
Oh, I could not stop laughing. That guy, he is so talented. I was like researching all this stuff he did and everything, and I was like, and that's a character again. When I was younger, I was like, what am I missing? But now I'm like, oh my God, this like first couple of minutes he's on screen, he's hysterical.
No, totally magnetic. And for me, when I saw that character on the movie box, like when I was a child, that's what I always think of.
Yeah.
It's not Mel Brooks. It's not Gene Wilder. It's not Madeline. It's no one other than that dude.
Yeah.
He's so distinct. Well, it's funny because I looked up so much stuff about the movie after I saw it too. And Marty Feldman, and I think actually a lot of the cast members, they did so much ad-libbing, which I think kind of adds to why the humor is so like, wait, what? Like blink and you miss it kind of humor. But like, God, one of my favorite things that Marty Feldman did was there's that gag where Gene Wilder goes, is that thing on your back on the other side? And Marty Feldman would just swap sides like in between takes and no one knew what was happening. And finally that's like on, he's like, wait, is that actually on your back?
And I think he was like, what hump?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. He's like, wait, what?
The fact that he
So
ad-libbed
funny.
so much of the dialogue
Yeah.
is crazy to
So
me. I
good.
can't imagine getting ready to be like, okay, let me go into this gig and like I don't know what I'm gonna say.
Okay, my favorite ad lib, which I mean, I would be disappointed to learn this isn't ad lib because I read it on the internet, which means it has to be true.
True.
But this scene where Dr. Frankenstein and Frankenstein are putting on the Ritz.
Oh my God.
They apparently didn't discuss what Frankenstein was gonna do. So they're like da 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 da, da and it cuts to him put on the Ritz. Like they didn't rehearse that. And I was just like, wow.
How did you not bust out laughing with
I
that?
know. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Yeah. Well, backing up to the black and white, because you mentioned it, what did you think about the approach, the choice to make this film in black and white? Was it effective? Did it distract you? I think some people find it distracting for modern movies, but what did you think?
It's highly divisive, and I am one of those people that loves black and white movies. As you can tell from our intros, a lot of times they're black and white. Anytime we get the chance to make them black and white, we do, because I love it. And I feel like it was effective. I mean, they're parodying those Universal movies, so it makes sense. But I can also see that turns a lot of viewers off. It immediately, and me and you talked about this before, Ian, when we were talking about segments to make black and white on the show. And, you know, the idea that certain people of an age group will just see black and white and be like, I'm not watching it.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's interesting because there are so many cool instances where black and white is used highly effective, like Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans, and also Werewolf by Night.
Right.
You know, but you're right. Like people of my generation and younger, and even like a little bit older, sometimes people are like, black and white, it must be boring, it must be slow, it must be this. I'm like, to answer your question, Swan, I think that the black and white choice for Young Frankenstein is chef's kiss. I love it.
Another thing that's interesting about black and white, because, you know, they shot the monsters and the Addams Family and all that in black and white, and they didn't have to. But when you see the set, because they released photos of those sets in modern day, you would not believe. The Addams Family living room is like pink and lime green.
Yeah.
Like it is
Wow.
not spooky looking at all.
Those picture reveals, those like, let me go back and sort of like color treat these ancient photos. Like that's like sorceress magic
They
to me.
weren't
Like when I
color
look at it, I'm
treated.
like, ugh. Like, it
No,
doesn't-
that's the real
Yeah.
pictures. They're not color treated. Those are actually what the set looked like, you know?
Yeah, you know, no, but I'm saying like we are trained to see it in black and white, and then you get the color.
Oh,
reveal.
yeah.
And oftentimes in a very similar way, you'll see old pictures of like your grandparents or you know whatever,
Yeah.
and then they have it color treated, and it just feels like almost like out of time.
Oh yeah, there's almost something where you're like, hi, everything was in black and white.
Yes.
Like in the 30s,
That's
there was
like
no
some
color.
stupid thing I would say when we were like watching a movie, and I'd be like, but you know, when they filmed this movie, it was in color for them. Yeah, duh.
Like, right.
It's not like everything from 1930 and before everyone only saw in black and white.
Oh, totally. Well, you know, the invention of seeing in color in the mid 1960s.
Damn. You know, and speaking of the color too, I also love the black and white of it all. It doesn't bother me at all. And it really kind of reinforces the idea that this is a spoof movie that's poking fun at all of the classic horror cinema tropes across the board. Obviously, mostly from James Whale, Frankenstein, and Bride of Frankenstein, but kind of like everything, like the mad scientist, the lab assistant, the love interest, the monster. Like it's just, there's so much stuff there to poke fun at.
And it's interesting too, because when you think of Frankenstein, you think of the imagery from really James Whale's creation. Because if you read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, you know, none of it described in the way that we think of these things visually, like Frankenstein's castle and those big ornate glass windows that are in all those movies. You know, that's just stuff that he made up, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's interesting that we think of that. That's Frankenstein. Yep, that's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It's like, not really, you know?
Totally. Well, it's funny to think that we have this vision of Frankenstein from James Whale, and then there are things in Young Frankenstein that are like, you know, I think that are very smart parodies, but then there are things that are just total stupid parody moments that are like, because it took me so long. I was looking and I was like, Frankenstein has a zipper on his neck. Like,
I know.
Damn.
And then his girlfriend calls it out. Yeah,
hey,
I literally, I had the exact same experience. I'm watching halfway through. I'm like, she got a zipper on her neck.
It's so funny. Well, and just, I mean, thinking of like the, zipper on her neck level comedy, like it always strikes me as funny to go back and look at things like from the 70s or just things that are a little bit older and think of how adult the humor is sometimes, but the way that it's presented is almost kind of classier in a weird way. But like they're talking about like, we need Frankenstein, or the creature he must be larger than life, big hands, broad shoulders, 7 feet tall, and a huge Schlausen. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, mood me.
Totally. I mean, like speaking of the monster too, like Peter Boyle pretty much like stole the show. I think that he was such a great Frankenstein's monster. I was curious though, because I'm like, I instantly recognize him as the dad from Everybody Loves Raymond. And I think so many audience members, that is what they would associate with him first. But here he is super young, like kind of going toe to toe with real stars that have huge careers and kind of stealing the show.
I did not know that that's who that was
Me
until
neither.
I saw your notes, and I was like, wow, that's who that was. I had no idea. He did look familiar, but I couldn't place it. Kind of looks a little bit like Terry Bradshaw from the Pittsburgh Steelers, but anyways.
I'm so good with a face. Like if I see it and I've seen it before, I'm like, boop, I know exactly where it's from.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really like his depiction of Frankenstein because it just didn't seem very menacing, but it also wasn't like super comedic. I don't know. He wasn't my favorite character in the movie.
Well, who was your favorite character in the movie?
I already said Igor, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah.
So Swan, you love Frankenstein.
No, but Frankenstein is not my favorite. I did love Frankenstein, but he was not my favorite. And I love a lot of the characters. I love Igor. I love Madeline Kahn's character. But I think my favorite is Gene Wilder. Like, I love him as Dr. Frankenstein and doing all that he does to bring those comedy beats. And I know that he worked really closely with Mel Brooks to create this, and they fought about it, and they it was a really like meeting of the minds to come together to make this movie. I think his hands are all over it, and it makes me smile to just see him perform. Yeah, he was my favorite.
No, he is fantastic. I would say that, I guess, my favorite character, he's only in one scene, but it is the blind like priest character. I just like scenes like that just crack me up, where it's like it sort of takes us away from the set. It takes us away from the actual plot of the movie just for this weird little side quest.
Oh,
where
totally.
It's like, God, and it's like one after another, where it's like, oh, thank you, God, for answering my prayers. Here, let me get you some soup. Pours the soup on him. Let me give you some wine. Smashes the wine glass. Let's do cigars. I'm like, this is just comedy.
Yeah, that's Gene Hackman too. I recognize his face immediately, even through the beard, and like there's like a million years taken off of him, one star after another. But speaking of those little segmented sidebars, like how about the scene with the little girl at the well, and she's like doing, and then like all of a sudden she's like flying through the window
Total
for
slapstick.
no reason.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's great. I think there's like slapstick humor. There's really adult humor, but then there's also like a lot of subtlety in some of the humor.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's subtlety, but it makes me think of the scene where I don't remember what his character's name is, but it's the constable kind of character. They're throwing the darts, and it's like the darts just go out the window, and then 2 minutes later, we're seeing the car and the darts are in the tires.
Yeah,
Yes, I was like,
that car has
I'm
a
like, they're
flat. I was
flat
like, it's
tires.
the dart.
Yeah, so good. I mean,
I love that. That is just silly and stupid. I love it. It was great.
I mean, the movie Young Frankenstein is kind of awesome. Like, we've just been laughing for the last whatever, just like talking about it and kind of celebrating it. It's brilliant. I think it absolutely stands up the test of time. Modern audiences can still appreciate it. So we hope you enjoyed this review. And if you haven't seen it like I hadn't before this review, you should definitely go and check out Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein.
Absolutely.
We're going to take another quick commercial break, and when we return, it will be time for listener mail. Don't move. All right, my darlings, here we are. Ian, would you please do the honors and reach into that bag of listener mail and read off those burning questions?
Ooh, so hot. Ooh, sorry. I gotta open the bag. Ooh, open the bag up. Alyssa from Sydney asks, back in lockdown, you released the digital double feature for fans to purchase tickets to be able to stream both your virtual shows. Would you consider re-releasing them for sale? In parentheses, please.
The answer is yes. We are going to put them up on Patreon. We haven't launched it yet, but we are definitely going to put them up there when we find 5 minutes.
When we create a Patreon, which we've been talking about for 2 years, but those shows are incredible. Like, I just recently came across, I was cleaning my laptop up and I saw some footage from previous tours, and we kind of like sliced those together for part of our intros. And I just saw tons of footage from the digital shows, and the digital shows are so supreme. Like, oh, I can't wait to re-release them.
My favorite part of those digital shows is I feel like it was a great example of the four of us working together on something creative in a way that was unrestricted by a budget or a timeline or content. It was us and Ian and Nathan, who's directs Dragula. We've worked together forever. And everyone just kind of did what they wanted. We were just like, go ham, everybody. And we're like, cool, let's go ham. We'll see you tonight. I'll grab a bunch of stuff. You get the equipment. We'll meet you in the woods and we'll figure this out.
I'll grab the cheesecake. We'll meet in the woods. No, but that was the awesome part about it. And because it was lockdown, no one had anywhere else to go.
Right.
You didn't feel the pressure of the world. And we made do with what we had. And we actually recorded in the room that we're recording in right now a lot of that digital content. And you would never guess it. It just looks so good.
It's silly, but it's fun. And it was perfect for quarantine.
Totally.
Toilet bowl.
Jamie writes, hi. This question might be a bit personal, but hearing you both talk about your childhoods and then seeing how far you've come, I want to know. If you got a chance to meet your childhood selves, what would you say? And how do you think Little Drac and Swan would react to seeing their future selves as the imperial goddesses they've become?
I can tell you how my younger self would react to seeing me through the looking glass as the imperial goddess that I become. I've told this to Drac before too. Like, joy makes me cry. When I see something super happy, I cry. So if I was a little kid and I got to see what we had created later in life, I would probably cry.
Aw, little Swan.
It's true.
I think I would think, yeah, that adds up.
That tracks.
I'd be like, that makes sense. Yeah. And I would be pleased, you know? Because I think about all the things I loved growing up and all the haunted stuff. And it's not just horror, it's a very specific lane of horror. And to see that we're sort of surrounded by all that, I think I would be happy about that. What advice would I tell myself? Probably to just be a total nerd. Like, look at all your friends and be like, I'm not your friend. And just like go to school, put on your glasses. I didn't have them, but I would wear them, and get a bunch of books and just be a fucking nerd and learn as much as you can.
That's good advice.
That's what I would tell myself.
I would tell myself, look, self, I know that you're already kind of a dreamer and you constantly live in your fantasy and you don't listen to the people around you. But I would say, do that even more. Like, go further into your fantasies, like completely explore your creativity. Don't listen to what anyone tells you about how you should live your life. Because as soon as you start following that inner voice, you get to places like this.
I had such a weird experience in school. Like, I excelled at literature and writing and all that. Like, I was in all these advanced classes and everything. And this is after weird things happened to me in my childhood that I then I would just like flop and all the others. I didn't care. I did not care. I would apply myself here and they would not know what to do with me because they're like, this person, you know, they try to skip you ahead a grade. They'd be like, we should do that. But then in the other sections, I'm like, you can take math and just get away from me for the rest of your life. Yeah. So it's weird. So I spent part of my time doing stuff like that. And then the other time plotting adventures for my rebellious friends.
Yes.
You know, I told you guys about this before.
Oh, totally.
The fence.
This is why I wish we had known each other as like small children, because I too plotted all the kids in my neighborhood, except we were putting on performances.
Aww.
We were putting on performances in the woods, and we were doing like guided horror trails through the spooky woods, and I would cast everybody and they would, they would basically do what I told them to do.
Mine was similar, but you could get arrested or captured by a truant officer.
It wasn't until teenage years where we started like lighting buildings on fire and stuff like that.
Well, I blame it on a friend of mine, Miss Kitty, who showed me at a young age that nobody can really do anything to you. know, like you're taught. You got to be scared of adults or respect them. And then she kind of showed me that you don't have to.
Was it before or after she tried to run over the principal with her station
It was
wagon?
those kind of things. It was those kind of things. And I'm like, well, shit. I mean, she didn't go to jail. So. And they let her stay home a lot. I didn't realize it's because they're like, just expel her. We don't want to deal with her. There's no hope. Anyways. Good times. That'll be on the Patreon.
Yes. Eileen asks, I was wondering if somewhere down the line, since your merch is so creative, I literally purchased one of at least everything, if we can get a line of Swanthula's Book Nook merch, like the Junior Mints do. I need a Swanthula Book Nook bookmark for my horror/thriller reading needs. Thank you.
That's a must. Eileen,
yeah.
thank you for the idea. Someone on tour made us a little series of Swanthula's bookmarks,
look.
and they are fucking adorable.
I know. I saw the Drac one the other day.
Oh, I didn't realize there was like different ones.
Yeah, I think they're like customized.
Right there it
cute.
is.
Oh, yeah, that one. The one of me is like more kind of like a little cartoonish and kind of pixie like.
Oh,
really
yeah.
cute. Yeah,
That's really cute. JC in Orlando writes, it seems lately we're seeing more and more queens making appearances out of drag. Only the fiercest seem to be holding the line and consistently showing up and showing out. I think the list may be down to the Boulets and Dolly Parton at this point, lol. While I enjoy learning more about the monsters, including seeing their human sides, if you had a contestant audition for Dragula who wanted to keep their identity private, i.e. requesting to also do their confessionals in drag, would you allow this? Or would this be a no-go from production or a branding standpoint?
No one's ever asked to do that. I would probably accommodate them, but the thing is, it would be hell for them because they would have to be in drag for 12 hours a day every day. They would not have that break. So they'd be like creating their look for their challenge in drag. Like, I'd be okay with it, you know? It'd be interesting.
We'd have to workshop this because my instinct gut was like, that is a cool concept. That is not a cool concept to be a competitor on Dragula or any reality TV show, because part of it is the creator, the artist, and then your creation.
Right.
Like Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. You can't just always be the monster, even though so many of us choose to try to live our lives like that. Ooh. But in a game setting, we want to see both sides.
The audience will not connect with them. I mean, although if you think about it, Season 2, they did their confessionals in drag.
Yeah.
And we sort of were trying to do that. Season 1 had no confessionals. Season 2, they did do it in drag. So I was thinking about keeping it that way, but I understood that the audience felt they couldn't connect with the real person behind the makeup.
Well, it's interesting to talk about like the connection to the person behind the makeup, because even thinking about other people that we've spoken to in all of our lives, where for me, when I watch the show, I'm like, okay, I see this person one time in drag, and then I see them out of drag, and I'm like, cool, I can connect the dots. But there are literally people who are like, man, I cannot tell Loris apart from Vander. And I'm like, really? Like, but to us, you know, it's like, I think we see so much drag that it's like, I can easily discern. But for some people, they're like, I need to see them out of drag. I have to see them, or else I have no idea who they are. Elsid from Manhattan writes, this question is for Ian. Oh, hello. Not however. I follow him on Instagram, and wow, welcome to the Gun Show. Oh my God, did I write this question?
I was like, okay, Ian.
I know. Thanks, Elsid. If you spell it backwards, it's Ian. I recently started taking my health more seriously.
oh, Adrum Card, I miss you.
Yes! Nye asks, I recently started taking my health more seriously after a health scare, and I'm noticing the benefits of exercise. Like, duh, I know, but depression is real, y'all. Anyway, how much do you lift? I feel like you would crush a medium-sized watermelon with just your arms.
Oh my God. You definitely wrote that.
Elsid, check your glasses, check the prescription, then like, have another look.
Elsid, I really appreciate that, but I think the real answer is that the medium-sized watermelon be crushed between these thighs. Anyway, moving on.
Ian does have gigantic thighs, not like, you know, muscular. Your legs are very muscular.
Thundra.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what's your advice?
I think they were asking how much I lift, and I don't know, honestly. I said that my goals were... Oh,
how much does a bag of Takis weigh?
Literally. My goal was always just to be able to lift the guys that I wanted to have in my bed off of me when I'm done with them.
So I guess you're definitely taking steroids.
You can bench press like 275.
Listen, mama,
What do you think? Now, you really did. You used to be very
I used to be like a fitness queen.
Yeah, not that you're not now, but you're not as like hardcore about it. So what did you used to press? Do you know?
In terms of like a bench press, I think I was pressing like nothing crazy. Like honestly, it was like 190 maybe. Like chest wasn't really my bag, but I remember my like big achievement was I was benching, what would that be? 2 plates on each side plus like a 25. Like I remember I was like, mama, this pussy is popping, honey.
You know, it's weird. I've been to the gym with Israel before and Andrew.
Yeah.
And they did not lift a lot more than me. But it's very strange. Like I feel like I'm very strong, but I don't build muscle the same way that they do. It's weird because I'm like, Andrew, you can't lift shit. I was like, I don't understand because you look huge.
Glamour muscles, honey.
Yeah, it is. It's very strange.
It's interesting because you see like there's like guys who are like power lifters who are like so hot. And they're just, I mean, really, they're like pushing weight. And I'm like, you big as hell. You're big as a house. And then you see these like, you know, like steroid muscle queens who it's like, it's not like they're benching like, oh, I bench 450. They're like, oh yeah, hi, 135. But they're doing like 1,000 reps of it. And I'm like, that's how you look all crazy.
Some people, well, you know, there's different arguments about like just lift large amounts of weight a short amount of time. And then people are like, no, just do like tons and tons and tons. And you know, there's many different schools of thought on that. But all I know is we would go to the gym and Israel would be there and we would be there before her. And then she would leave and I was like, you're done? And she's like, yeah, we're going to eat or whatever. I'm like, how are you done? Anyways.
Well, guess what? I'm done. And that's all the time we have left on this episode of Creatures of the Night.
Oh, real quick before we go, we should tell everyone, go and watch The Nun 2 because that is the next movie we are reviewing on the Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night because we're literally walking out the door right now to go to the premiere that they can't call a premiere because of the strike.
We'll see you next time, uglies. The Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night is hosted by the Boulet Brothers with their co-host and producer, Ian DeVogler. Engineered and mixed by Carlos Bueno with music by Neuron Spector.